In October 2014, a crowd gathered at a reservoir in Fujian province to watch a Shaolin monk named Shi Liliang attempt something that looked like a stunt from a fantasy movie. On his feet, wearing standard training robes, he sprinted across the open water surface for over 118 meters. A year later, he broke his own mark by running 125 meters. No safety harness, no CGI, no hidden underwater bridge. When video of the run hit social media, millions of viewers assumed it was clever editing or a staged illusion. But running across water, a skill known historically as Qinggong, is a real documented practice inside the temple. And what most online breakdown videos miss is that running on a lake is actually just the entry-level demonstration of a physical conditioning system that pushes body weight management and structural density to limits modern sports science is only beginning to document. Beyond sprinting over water, historical records show monks conditioning their skulls to absorb full-force blunt hits against stone blocks. There is the famous case of Abbot Haideng, who gained worldwide fame for balancing his entire body weight vertically on a single index finger. And those iconic animal stances seen across traditional kung fu, the crane, the tiger, the crow, were not created as decorative forms for performance routines. They were functional movement drills derived from watching how wild animals distribute weight on unstable terrain. Today, we are looking past the viral highlight reels to break down the mechanics, the real history, and the controversies behind these feats. Part 1. The physics of running on water. To understand how Shi Liliang ran 125 meters across a lake, you have to look at the mechanical setup. The temple laid out roughly 200 thin plywood planks floating end-to-end across the surface of the reservoir. He was not walking on liquid barefooted like a superhero, but that does not make the feat any less demanding. Plywood floating on open water offers almost zero static resistance. If you step onto one of those planks and pause for half a second, the board submerges, you lose balance, and you sink immediately. The entire technique relies on cadence, momentum, and minimal surface contact time. He moves his legs at an insanely high turnover rate, striking each floating board with just enough downward pressure to propel himself forward before the wood has time to displacement sink into the water column. The physical preparation for this takes years before a practitioner ever touches a lake. In traditional Shaolin methodology, trainees build up their stride sensitivity through a progressive sequence. They begin by practicing light footwork drills across fields of tall grass, where the goal is to sprint across without bending or crushing the grass blades beneath them. Once they master that level of weight distribution, they move to running across strips of fragile rice paper laid out over mud, learning to move fast enough that the paper does not tear. Only after passing those balance checks are they permitted to attempt floating planks on open water. It is a lesson in cadence and ground contact time that modern track sprinters spend whole careers trying to optimize. Part 2. Bone density and skull conditioning. Head hardening sounds like an urban legend or movie exaggeration, but it is explicitly documented in primary historical texts. The most famous source is a 1934 manual titled Training Methods of the 72 Arts of Shaolin, written by Jin Jing Zhong with direct cooperation and approval from Reverend Miao Xing, the head abbot of the Shaolin monastery at the time. This was not an outside observer guessing what happened behind closed doors. It was an internal catalog of their actual conditioning methods. The skull training method, known as Iron Head, works on the principle of progressive mechanical stress. Beginners do not start by smashing their heads into hard objects. They begin with daily, low-force impact work, repeatedly pressing and lightly tapping their foreheads against soft wood or packed dirt bags. Over months and years, the material resistance gradually increases to solid timber, stone blocks, and eventually live sparring partners striking foreheads together in controlled drills. A similar method called Iron Belly uses smooth wooden rollers and blunt blades scraped rhythmically across the midsection to condition local tissue resistance. From a medical standpoint, what these monks were doing centuries ago directly mirrors modern concepts of Wolff's Law, the biological principle that bones and skeletal tissue adapt, thicken, and increase in density when subjected to repeated mechanical loads. By applying gradual controlled stress over decades, they systematically thickened the frontal bone of the skull and dense muscle fascia around the abdomen, allowing them to absorb direct hits that would knock an untrained person unconscious. Part 3. The one-finger handstand debate. If you have ever searched for vintage martial arts footage, you have likely come across black and white clips of Master Haidong. Born in Sichuan, Haidong became one of the most famous Shaolin figures of the 20th century, largely due to a signature skill, the one-finger Chan, where he appeared to balance his entire body weight inverted on a single index finger. However, when film crews and sports scientists analyzed the famous 1980s documentary footage featuring his one-finger handstand, controversy erupted. Observers pointed out that in several clips, Haidong was positioning his legs against a wall for lateral support, and his index finger showed surprisingly little joint strain for supporting a full adult weight. Later, investigative reports suggested that because Haidong was already in his 80s when the camera crews arrived, assistants may have assisted his balance with hidden support lines to help him demonstrate the skill for television cameras. Yet, dismissing Haidong as a complete fake overlooks his documented abilities. Martial artists and historians who trained alongside him confirm that in his prime, he regularly demonstrated a full, unsupported two-finger handstand, a feat requiring an unbelievable amount of tendon strength in the hand, wrists, and core stabilizers. The debate around Haidong highlights an important truth about martial arts history. While sensationalized media often edited footage to look like magic, the underlying physical conditioning built by these monks over decades was real enough to stretch the boundaries of what most human beings consider physically possible. Part 4. Animal styles as functional movement. The animal stances in Shaolin Kung Fu, such as the crane, tiger, leopard, and crow, are often mischaracterized as theatrical or symbolic poses. In reality, early monastery practitioners developed these routines through direct, painstaking observation of nature, studying how animals maintained balance, absorbed impact, and generated explosive power without wasted motion. Consider the crow pose, practiced today in both martial arts and yoga under the name Bakasana. Monks developed this position by observing how birds land heavily on thin, swaying tree branches without snapping the wood or losing their grip. To replicate that stability in a human body, the exercise places the hands flat on the floor, using the arms as a rigid support branch while wedging the knees against the triceps. This instantly shifts the body's center of mass directly over the hands, forcing the forearms, shoulders, serratus, and core muscles to lock together in isometric tension. The same biomechanical logic applies to animal crawls like the bear crawl or tiger walk. Ground-based crawling forces the cross-body kinetic chain, connecting the opposite hip and shoulder, to stabilize the spine while moving under load. Long before modern strength and conditioning coaches started prescribing quadrupeds and animal flow routines for joint health and core stability, Shaolin trainers were using those exact movement patterns to build structural durability in young recruits. Whether it is running across floating planks, building bone density through progressive impact, or mastering complex bodyweight balance, none of these skills happen through hidden tricks or sudden breakthroughs. They are the result of basic, unglamorous, highly repetitive conditioning practiced every day for years. In our next video, we are stepping past the high-level demonstrations to look at where this training actually begins. What does day one look like for a 7-year-old child entering the temple for the first time? The reality of that beginner routine is far grittier and more grueling than what you see on highlight reels. Hit follow so you do not miss the next breakdown, and let me know in the comments which of these historical methods surprised you the most. See you in the next one.